One of the things you mentioned there a few times is this, I don't know what you'd call them, sort of culture sessions, culture work, this thing, the past, present, future. Firstly, I mean, I've said this to you in message already, but I think it's so good that you're so openly talking about these things. And one of the things you said before was, I can talk about it because if you just copy what I do, like it's what I do, not what it's written down, that kind of idea. How do you end up at this past, present, and future? Like, what was the story of finding it to lay it out in this specific way, so that people
It's a
could
good
maybe find
question.
for them?
I don't remember how it first started. I think I that's what I discussed at the beginning, where if you enter a specific scenario, it's like human hacking, right? If you want to enter a room, you need to understand the room and you need to gather as much data as possible. Knowledge is power, and I've changed ecosystem a lot in my life through my studies. I literally change CD almost every year across like 6-7 years, and then I traveled a lot through jobs and stuff. And every time you enter a room, it's like a new challenge. And I want, at the end of the day, I like being center of attention in a nice way. I like being nice to everyone because then everyone is nice with me and life is great and you have fun. So I've spent a lot of time trying to understand, okay, what's the easiest way to actually have people get some interest on me is to get interested on them. And it's that's why knowing people's past is so important. And then you need to align on the future because you need to understand where you're all going, and you might have totally different ideas of where you're going to go. And well, once you have past and future, it kind of makes sense to, okay, where are we right now? And the system kind of worked. I think the first time I did the exercise of having the people tell me their life, which was probably even before Optic. I didn't have such an advanced system of I'm not even sure it was conscious for me to do the past, present, future. I think I was just doing past back then. I remember writing down the life of Akkadian and back then, and Zabutin on the wall and stuff like that. But I think we were doing a bit of present, not as much future, which is of course something I would really change if I was doing the whole Optic adventure again. But I think it's just a great system, but it's as great as what you're going to do with it. It depends. That's why I have no problem sharing everything we do, because I believe it's connected to the human. And Isma, for example, when we hired him last year, brought a full new layer of consciousness and understanding of the system, and he brought his own tool. That's why it's once again important to understand who he is. I think it's also a good system to make sure some jobs in the team which are not as visible as the rest, like data, like Rodrigo, for example, for us, which is a head analyst. And usually analysts in a team are more a bit on the side, it's just a guy doing the data. If he's going to spend his whole day with you trying to understand what you're going to do, is as important as anyone else. So you need to know his life. You need to know what he did and stuff. So you synchronize him with the past, present, future stuff. It just works really well. Yeah, and it depends on people. People are going to have different ideas, and it depends on the people in the room as well, what experience they bring. Yeah, I really don't remember how we initially came up with that. I have someone really important in my life, which is my dad, and that's Loki's job to do those stuff. Like, he's been working in motivation, coaching, making sure humans are aligned with their life goal for the last 30 years. So if your dad is a space engineer or a doctor or something, is going to go home and have space stories, But my dad had motivation story and team environment story, and of course, as a good dad, he pushed as much as possible his own theory on me, which I definitely did not like as a teenager, But now that I'm a grown up, I understand what he was doing. Same for my mom, and I think I'm just copy pasting a lot of the stuff they pushed on me, saying those are good. And now it's really, actually, fast forward 10 years later, it's probably good to eat all together around the table with no phone, so it creates more interaction. You have to be conscious of what you're doing. So we had a part of the workshop at the beginning of the year where we discussed what we're going to do for food, how we're going to eat. Do we allow food in front of the computer, or do we make sure we create a specific safe space moment where everyone's going to sit there and discuss about stuff like that? So yeah, I think the TLDR of this long answer was I'm probably mimicking a lot of the stuff my dad taught me, but he didn't even really knew what he was teaching me.
Have you gone back to him with the things you're doing now and talked to him
Oh yeah,
about
of course, a lot. He even wrote a book about his method and stuff. It's in French, sorry, but I think it's good. And yeah. So of course, it makes things conscious. It's important, so you can work on them. The moment I realized that's where I'm getting most of my data from, I went to get more data. And we sit down and stuff. I'm having less and less questions for him. I'm going to be honest, because I start to be better at my job. But yeah, for sure, especially at the beginning, I had a lot of cases for him.
What's the book called?
The what?
What's the book called?
I think, wait, if you give me half a second. So they re-edited it. It's here. Up. It's called 1998 Stories of Les coulisses de l'épopée Sang et Or. So he worked for a football team called Racing Club de Lens, which is a French org from the north. And he worked with them the first year they won the French championship as a total outsider. So the whole book is how he worked with the coach and the president, not really the players, but mostly the coaching staff, and he helped them to change their vision. So they were starting to work on strength rather than weaknesses, which is a common mistake. Or if someone is really good at one thing and really bad at the other thing, you're going to force them to work a lot on the bad thing so they get better at it. And not only it usually don't work, but usually doesn't work, but it also usually impacts a good thing. So then that you're losing what you're good at, and you get worse at something you're not good at. So yeah, that whole book. Stéphane Bijard, 1998. That's, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of time ago. 25, 26 years. I was a kid, so I didn't really understood all of that when I was home. But yeah,